We have a guest in the studio with us. She is running for Twin Falls City Council. And I was joking with her on the telephone the other day. I said, here we are, not really that far away from Election Day. And to this point, she is the only candidate who has come forward and said, you know what? I'd like a little time on the air to talk about some of the things I stand for and the like. And that caught me by surprise because some of the incumbents, I don't even think I've heard a peep out of them in the last couple of weeks about that issue. But Bethany Rasmussen joining us in studio on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com online, meaning you can hear us anywhere all over the world. And, of course, if you have a comment or question for the candidate, too, she'll likely be able to sit here and take a couple of those. She'll be hearing them more, I think, as she goes door to door and goes to various campaign events. It's 8:44 and 59. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story. First of all, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Bill. I'm glad to be here.
You've got quite a background. For somebody just 24 years old, you're working in some nonprofit background, some charitable background. I was going to say, why would you want to settle yourself with politics?
Well, at first when I heard about this is not something that I thought I was going to originally be doing, but as time went on, I just started to see some stuff changing in Twin Falls, and everybody always has an opinion on things, and I thought, why just say things to people when I could make a difference and actually run for a city office? And so when I saw that 4 seats were opened, I figured, why not take a chance?
I have a friend. He ran for a school board seat when he was 18. We were still in high school. And he didn't win that election, but he ended up going to work for a congressman and became chief of staff. So It gave him a taste of that early on in life and really, opened a lot of doors for him and for people. There's the young woman in West Virginia, too, who was elected, I think, to the state legislature. She's about 20 years old.
Oh, wow.
Last year or the year before. And so I've seen more and more people who are younger are saying, you know what, we think we've got to get involved. But it's still rare, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Rebecca Mills-Soyka, I looked up some information, and she was elected at 26, and so she was the youngest person on record for being put on the city council. So.
I'd say she knows a little bit about signage, because everywhere I go,
Yes, absolutely, yes. Yeah, it seems like everybody's doing that, so I have my signs coming today, and I'm hoping to get out and put them up. So.
Now, there's 9 or 10 folks who are actually looking to fill just a few seats.
Yeah.
What specific seat are you? Who's the incumbent you're going after?
Rebecca Mills-Soyka.
Really?
Yeah, seat number 7.
So it'd be one young person replacing another young person.
Yes. Yeah.
I was going to say, what attracts you then to doing this? You mentioned a little earlier you grew concerned about some things in Twin Falls. Is it something that you just you spotted driving through town, or something else that sort of led you to believe I really need to step up and do this?
Well, a lot of it has to do with growing up here in Twin Falls. I haven't lived anywhere else, and so I remember being little and hearing, South Park was basically the only unsafe neighborhood here in Twin Falls, and that clearly is not the case any longer. And being only 24 years old, I believe that is quite a short period of time for that kind of a change to happen. And then because I am still young, I'm looking for a home, and, things just are not the same with that either, neighborhood-wise, because you have to choose between buying a home that is in a bad neighborhood that you can afford, or going into extreme debt to get to a place where you feel like you're not going to be held at gunpoint or robbed.
You've seen all that growth in Twin Falls.
Yes.
Some of the city looks spectacular. You go out to the north end and you think you were in a beautiful suburb of Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But you come down to some of the older parts of town, and I guess it's a little depressing to see some of what's happened.
It is. I feel so bad for the people that live there because some of them, it's not their choice. They just cannot afford anything else.
What do you think you could do to change that? I mean, what if day one you're elected, what's going to be your approach? What's the first thing you're going to tackle?
Well, I would love to see just some cleanup happen in our town. I believe that a lot of things, too, with garbage being laid around. I was walking down Falls the other day right by Sawtooth Elementary, and there was a syringe lying on the road. Things like that just should not be in our town. We're family friendly and we love our people. And so just even cleaning up the garbage, I think, would help a lot to improve the appearance of the neighborhoods that we live in.
A little paint now and then doesn't hurt.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be another good change. And yeah, just to kind of focus back on our community. And, there's always budgets and things like that. But when I'm running, I don't even know what I will be getting paid. I want to serve the people of Twin Falls because that's what we're supposed to be here to do.
I had Randy Staples, former newspaper reporter, was on the show with me Monday and said, truly, if you want to be a council member in Twin Falls, you don't do it for money.
Yeah.
So it has to be a labor of love that people are actually trying to take on.
Yeah.
Mentioning growing up here, you went away obviously for school.
No, I actually stayed
You
here.
stayed right in town.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I took some online classes and did some bookkeeping things and stuff. So that was what I chose to do.
And what do you do now for a living?
Well, I am a Mary Kay beauty consultant and I clean homes. So I have about between 12 and 15 clients that I clean for and
So that would be
do that.
called somewhat of an entrepreneur, I guess, in this
Yes.
situation.
Yep.
I had friends who did that, and they used to tell me it paid better than radio. So I've often thought about that. It's 8:49. Bethany Rasmussen is our guest in studio this morning. She's a candidate for Twin Falls City Council, and if you have a comment or question for her, feel free to give us a call at 736-0300. That would be 736-0300. It is 60. We've been sort of bouncing back and forth, and it looks like today's going to still be one of the last nice days we have before some more autumn-like weather arrives in the area. You've only got a matter of weeks. So this election cycle is really short. The filing period was
Yeah.
over with a couple of weeks ago. Is there an opportunity? Because Rebecca, second generation, really, when it comes to politics, her father's very well known. And as I
Yeah.
say, she's very good at putting signs out around the city and the like. Is there, in your view, do you have enough time to really make an impact and get your name out there and go door to door and do all of those things?
I think so. I think that if you are willing to do the work, I believe that there are enough people that will connect with you and it can be possible. Word of mouth does a lot for you as well. I know a lot of people in the community just because my family's lived here for so long and then with my cleaning business. And so, I just talk to whoever I come in contact with and
Sure, sure.
yeah.
If you want to put the headset on, we'll take a telephone call and we'll see what our caller has to say. You're on the air, and our guest, Bethany Rasmussen, taking your telephone calls. And what's on your mind? All right, the first person decided you answered their question. We have another caller with us. You're up next. It's 8:51. Caller, you're on the air.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful. What's on your mind?
Well, it wasn't necessarily in regards to the gal that you've got on there right now. I was just wondering when you're going to have Mr. Mills on there to question him about his decision with John Moore's
I'll tell you what.
future employment at CERCOM.
I'd rather do that at a later date. I think it's rude to interrupt my guest with those types of questions because she's made an effort to come in here this morning. So keep it related to the topic that she happens to be on. You're not worried about that because in politics you can smile through everything, unlike a talk show host. So when you mentioned going into business on your own, is that important? Because as a young person, are there really any serious job opportunities in this community to really make a good living, or do you have to create it on your own?
To some extent, you do have to create it on your own. I know my brother went into welding and has been pursuing chemical engineering as his degree, and he's found out that a lot of engineers in the area can't really get jobs. And so they have to move out of state or out of town. Even Boise is small enough to where there's not a whole lot going on there. And so, yeah, there is a lot of missed opportunities, I think, in Twin.
I used to live in a city a lot like Twin Falls. Gosh, I've been gone from there over 20 years, but I went back there one time to visit about 10 years ago, and I was in a restaurant having my lunch, and the young lady who was waiting on me told me that she was paying her way through college without any debt by working
Wow.
waiting tables. But she said, this is the busiest tavern and restaurant in the city. And she said, I graduated with 400 other people at my high school. And she said, in 5 years of working here, she said, I could count how many of them I've seen come through here. And she was
Yeah.
reflecting on how many of them must have moved away. I'm sure you've experienced something like that too with a lot of old friends from high school.
Yeah. Yeah, when I graduated, a lot of people were like, we're going to California. Everything happens out there. And a lot of them have moved back just because the housing's higher, things are changed, and also the feeling of the communities are always different as well. And when you grow up in such a close-knit community like we have here in Twin, it's hard to replace that.
8:53, Bethany Rasmussen, our guest. She's a candidate for Twin Falls City Council, joining us on the air this morning, 736-0300. We have a caller with us, and you're on the air with Bethany. And what's your question?
I just joined in, but I don't know if she's answered this question yet, but I was curious to hear your stance on the refugees coming in.
Big topic.
Yeah, it is a big topic right now, and I believe it's very relevant as well to our town just because we're getting so flooded with them. I love the refugees. My family was immigrants from Germany and from Norway and Denmark. And so I believe we all come from somewhere. The only thing that I have a problem with is when we are not called to pledge allegiance to the country that we're coming into. And so that would be the only thing I would have to say, that I would love to see refugees come into this community, but we have to have that commitment to our nation, to our town.
Americans first, I guess, is what you're saying, that they have to
Yes.
really make sure that they make that clear.
Yeah, and I would love to see as well. I know that there have been a lot of people like on the bridge holding up signs, we support refugees, we love refugees, and a lot of people on Facebook, will post things. But I don't see a lot of people donating their time, finding out specifically from the refugees what's going on in their lives, what struggles they're facing. And I would love to see people do that, because a lot of us can have opinions. But if we don't talk directly to the source, the people that are in the program right now, we're not really going to know what's going on and what they're facing. And so to donate their time, to donate money, would be a very positive thing.
I want to thank the caller for chiming in. We have another caller with us, 854, and you're on the air with candidate Bethany Rasmussen.
Yes, I've probably been in this area as long as anybody. I'm about almost 80 years old, and I've seen the growth in this valley and also in valleys like Salt Lake and Boise. And I sat on the first comprehensive plan that was put together here many, many years ago. And I made the statement then that someday Twin Falls would be as big as Boise, and Boise would be as big as Salt Lake. It has almost come to pass, and I'm wondering what kind of foresight this young lady is going to have in being able to imagine that syndrome, and how they can plan and develop Twin Falls in such a way that it can prepare for that kind of growth. Someone laughed at that when I said that, and then I said, all right, pick the day, regardless of how far away it is, when Twin Falls sells its last building permit. And he thought it meant, he said, well, that'll never happen. I said, exactly. Twin Falls is going to continue to grow until it eventually reaches the size of Boise, and Boise will eventually reach the size of Salt Lake City. Well, I'll get off the phone and hang up and listen to what kind of responses this young lady has.
Okay, well, I think that growth is not always a bad thing, as long as we grow in the correct and positive direction that supports our community. There are a lot of opportunities, like you said, to come and build in this community. And, I was talking to a little older lady, and when I told her I was running for city council, she said, you know what we need? We need a place that serves good fish in Twin Falls.
More barbecue joints, too, from my perspective.
There you go. Yeah. So there's always an opportunity. We just have to make sure that the town is growing in the way that we want it to. And I believe that's part of the city council's job, is to watch stuff.
I know that in Vegas, the big challenge has been sprawl. And there are certain places, you drive certain directions here, and it just seems that there's no one can predict it where it's going right now. And do you have to have some sort of constraint, or do you have to have a master plan? Or should you just let people go and do it, and say, all right, go ahead?
I think that there should be some planning to it, because you have to have decency and order in everything that you do. And to be able to have the desired outcome that you want, you do have to plan things out.
I was going to say, even some of the councilors have joked with me in the past, saying that they saw all the growth several years ago on the south end of the city, and then the north side boomed. Mm-hmm. Yet the south side still has a lot of the industrial growth that's been going on. But they're in between, and this is what I've noticed, because when I drive around town, it's some really nice neighborhoods still in the downtown area, mainly, though, as you're heading out of downtown towards the north side. And then some of the neighborhoods, you look at the homes, and I have to admit, I feel sorry for some of the people who live in some of those, I hate to say it, shacks. Yeah. Do we need perhaps better building codes, or, to maybe make sure people aren't living in pigsties?
I think that would be a very positive thing to do. And I've noticed as well that a lot of the sidewalks downtown in Twin Falls are not conducive to anyone. I mean, if you have any kind of a disability, or if you're a mom walking your kids with a stroller, you don't have a prayer. I mean, some of them are at like a 10% grade because the roots of trees have lifted up the sidewalk. So it's just a problem.
I want to thank you, Bethany, for coming by today. And I'm going to wish every candidate good luck. And just to let the other candidates know that since there are so many of you this year, I'm not going to be chasing people down to get them on air, but I want to make an offer to all of those council candidates that if they get in touch with me soon, we'll provide them some time, obviously, in the interest of fairness for everyone who is in this race, because it is a big, big number of people this year. And Election Day is not too far away. Here we are in October, a little over a month away if you're counting the days. And again, is there a website you have that's set up?
I do have a Facebook page, and it's just elect Bethany Rasmussen for Twin Falls City Council.
All right, super. 9 o'clock news is coming up in just a moment. Bill Colley with you as well on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And we've got plenty more coming up in the next hour, one more hour, in fact, of the show just ahead.